Tonight, the premiers gather for pivotal talks in Ontario as a U.S. trade deadline looms. As Canada's first ministers get set to meet, the Trump administration doubles down on demands.
Canada is not open to us. They need to open their market.
What's on the agenda for the big summit between the premiers and the prime minister? Plus, ferry ride fiasco, how this Tesla and its driver wound up in a watery and dangerous situation.
No!
And restoring pieces of the past. How this century-old piano could help protect the future of a storied Quebec basilica.
CTV National News with Heather Butts. Reporting tonight, John Venevali Rao.
Good evening. Canada's premiers are set to start meeting tomorrow in Ontario's cottage country, a three-day gathering that'll include Prime Minister Carney. Topping the agenda, trade, tariffs, and protecting the economy amid Donald Trump's most recent tariff ultimatum. CTV's Rachel Aiello is in the Muskoka region to cover the talks and breaks down what's on the agenda.
I'm in Huntsville, Ontario, where starting tomorrow, the premiers of every province and territory will be gathering to start 3 days of meetings, including one likely intense discussion with Prime Minister Mark Carney about the state of trade talks with U.S. President Donald Trump. This meeting was to be taking place during the week that Canada and the U.S. were finalizing a new trade deal, as Carney and Trump had agreed to during the G7 summit. But the two countries are on track to blow past the initial July deadline, now working towards an August 1st target, as that's the date the American administration plans to raise tariffs on Canadian goods to 35%. And now, with Carney conceding that a tariff-free trade pact probably isn't in the cards, premiers are likely coming to cottage country with questions about what that might mean for jobs and industries in their respective regions.
I think they're all walking in the same direction, and I think they need to stay that way. It will be important, though, that they send a signal to the economy of Canada that they're continuing to push forward.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford is hosting this summer gathering of Canada's premiers. He says the meeting will be an opportunity to work together on how to respond to Trump's latest threat and how we can unleash the full potential of Canada's economy. Part of that work will be moving nation-building projects forward, and so premiers will also meet with Indigenous leaders. As for what else is on the agenda here, emergency management, energy security, immigration, public safety, and healthcare. Premiers will be meeting with Carney on Tuesday and wrapping their talks on Wednesday. Local residents have been told to expect more traffic and heightened security measures over the next few days. Rachel Aiello, CTV News, Huntsville, Ontario.
On the eve of that first ministers' meeting, America's Secretary of Commerce today firmly stood by Donald Trump's tariff threats. As CTV's Jeremy Sharon explains, it's coming as Canada pushes forward with efforts to diversify its trade markets.
With an August 1st tariff threat and a self-imposed deadline to land a new trade deal with Donald Trump, the White House's message for Canada is clear.
Canada is not open to us. They need to open their market. Unless they're willing to open their market, they're going to pay a tariff.
In an interview with CBS's Face the Nation Sunday morning, Howard Lutnick stood firm on the deadline and had this to say about renegotiating the Canada-US-Mexico trade deal.
Oh, I think the president is absolutely going to renegotiate USMCA, but that's a year from today.
But before that, Prime Minister Mark Carney is looking for a deal to avoid further tariffs as of next month.
It may be that the best that we can do is a relatively low 10, 15, it's hard to pick a number out of the air, rate across the board and have that restricted solely to those sectors not USMCA compliant.
To guard against the shifting tides of Trump's trade efforts, Canada is now looking to push forward new partnerships outside of North America in an effort to diversify. We live in a complex and fast-changing world. Cooperation with reliable partners is more important than ever, said Canada's Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne on the heels of G7 and G20 meetings in South Africa just days ago. While Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum earlier this week said she spoke with Prime Minister Carney about strengthening trade collaboration with Canada in the face of Trump's tariffs. We both agree that it is essential to respect the USMCA trade agreement, and we shared our experiences about the letter we received from President Trump, she said. Canada and Mexico are among countries who received tariff letters from Donald Trump about what to expect August 1st. Now up against the clock to land a deal, Prime Minister Mark Carney will meet with a bipartisan group of U.S. senators on Parliament Hill tomorrow. John?
All right, thanks, Jeremy, in Ottawa tonight. A 9-year-old girl from Canada has been found dead after being reported missing in upstate New York. Local authorities say the girl's father called police Saturday night to report her missing after an abduction in Lake George. This morning, an Amber Alert was issued, but later officers identified inconsistencies with the father's timeline. After a search, the young girl's body was found 72 kilometers from where she was last reported seen. And a 14-year-old boy has been charged with second-degree murder after the stabbing of a Toronto senior. The 71-year-old woman was loading groceries into her car when she was attacked in a parking lot. Police say the incident was unprovoked and may have been a robbery that escalated. The teen suspect was tracked down and taken into custody today. More than 50,000 Canada Post workers will be voting this week on the latest contract offer from their employer. It comes after months of contentious negotiations at a time when many Canadians are debating just how much they use the service. With more on that, here's Paul Hollingsworth.
Canada Post and its unionized employees are buried deep in negotiations that have lasted more than 18 months.
We put forward the offers. We hope they see it as a reasonable path forward that provides certainty.
But the union sees things differently.
We're dealing with a mugger. The post office is trying to take a whole bunch of stuff from us.
With the labor impasse continuing, we asked Canadians how much they use Canada Post.
I don't send any mails or anything, so I don't really use it.
Some seniors in particular still send and receive on a regular basis.
I use it, like maybe for paying bills.
How often do you use Canada Post?
Weekly.
What do you use it for?
We mail letters and parcels out to family and friends.
Others appreciate the simplicity of this long-standing tradition.
I have to admit, I like to receive things in Canada Post as opposed to electronically.
Since 1867, Canada Post has served communities across the country. How people use the post office depends on where they live.
I fear for rural Canadians, because there are a lot of delivery companies won't deliver to rural Newfoundland or rural Alberta or rural British Columbia.
University marketing professor Ed McHugh says across the country there has been a decline in the use of the mail service among younger Canadians.
They know what Amazon Prime is, but they don't know what Canada Post is.
I feel like some demographics use it more than others. I would say it's not super relevant in my everyday life.
Through thick and thin, the Postal Service undeniably has its loyal users.
We get a lot of junk mail, basically. But still, I would hate to see it disappear.
She hopes both sides avoid a work stoppage and strengthen a national institution that dates all the way back to Confederation. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Halifax.
We've got some dramatic video to show you tonight of a stunning incident that took place aboard a Quebec ferry earlier this week. It shows the frantic moments after a Tesla fell off the boat. As Stéphane Giroux tells us, that's when things went from bad to worse.
The Tesla fell in the water while getting off the ferry. Someone suggested lowering the ramp to push the car on dry land. It didn't go well.
No! Hey! Stop!
Mike, give me your hand.
Seconds later, the car drifts away with the current. The driver escapes, but the current is too strong.
Mike, come here.
Go straight left. All right.
Someone throws a lifebuoy, but it doesn't reach the man, so a ferry employee decides to dive in to save him. In what felt like an eternity, the motorist was pulled to safety by the ferry crew, while the rescuer safely swam back to the shore. The car was eventually retrieved, though it's now a total loss. People we've spoken to say they've never seen or heard of an incident before involving this ferry. It was back in operation this weekend, and the Transport Safety Board is now investigating what went wrong. The ferry's operator was not available for comments, but local users of the ferry say they don't fear for their safety.
I'm absolutely concerned about safety. That being said, I've been crossing here for a couple of years now. Never seen any accident.
Neither the driver nor rescuer were injured in the incident, but the investigation is expected to reveal if this could have been prevented. Stéphane Giroux, CTV News in Laval.
This was a particularly deadly day in Gaza for aid seekers, with more than 80 Palestinians being killed by Israeli gunfire. That's according to the Hamas-controlled health ministry. Israel maintains its troops fired warning shots at a crowd of thousands to remove what it called an immediate threat. The United Nations is confirming that large crowds had gathered as 25 aid trucks entered the area. There is a desperate need for aid in northern Gaza, where health officials warn some are on the brink of starvation. Police in Los Angeles have now arrested the man accused of driving into a crowd outside of a nightclub early Saturday, injuring at least 30 people. The alleged driver, who was shot by a bystander at the scene, has been charged with assault with a deadly weapon, but authorities are considering charging him with attempted murder once their investigation is done. The Transportation Safety Board is continuing to investigate a deadly float plane crash earlier this week in Ontario. It's leading to calls for tougher flight regulations. But as CTV's Kamal Karamali reports, it also comes at a time when the number of plane crashes across the country is declining.
A damaged dock is all that remains of a seaplane crash that killed a teenager Friday at this Ontario lake. Today, children splashing nearby, a sight highlighting had the timing been different, there could have been any number of victims.
Definitely can happen to anybody.
The 16-year-old boy was standing on a dock Friday afternoon on Lake Scugog, just an hour outside Toronto. When a float plane struck the dock, he died on scene. It's left residents and visitors shaking.
There should be more safety measurements should be taken.
This deadly and devastating crash now prompting questions on plane safety and security, but data shows plane crashes in Canada, on average, are actually trending downwards. Over the past 5 years, there have been under 200 plane accidents in Canada each year. But compare the average of those 5 years at just over 180 accidents to the decade before that. The average number of incidents between 2010 and 2019 much higher, with over 250 accidents per year.
We have an increased quality of pilots. Pilots are much more rigorously trained and inspected.
This week, another incident heightened concern when a BC man was accused of stealing a small plane from the Victoria Flying Club and landing it at the Vancouver airport. CTV News reached out to over a dozen small to medium-sized airports across the country. They either didn't respond or said security measures will remain the same after BC's hijacking incident, with Victoria's airport adding, should Transport Canada make any recommendations as a result of this investigation, we will work with them to support implementation as appropriate.
You would be pretty hard pressed to impose a uniform level of security in the general aviation world because there are so many airports.
Life at Lake Scugog attempting to return to normal, but with few answers into what caused the crash and the investigation continuing, many are not yet ready to rest easy. Kamal Karamali, CTV News, near Lake Scugog.
Coming up, ready to leave the hospital, but nowhere to go.
It's a huge system and a huge problem that's systemic.
What's being done in New Brunswick to help solve hospital overcrowding? It's a problem in many parts of the country, patients occupying hospital beds when they should instead be in a long-term care home. New Brunswick has seen a record number of such patients. CTV's Sarah Plowman with how it's trying to cope.
It's summer, but hospitals are overcrowded. Hundreds of beds taken up by people who don't need to be here but can't go home. Many stuck, waiting for a long-term care bed.
Approximately 40% of acute care beds are currently being used by patients who no longer require hospital-level care.
To relieve pressure, one of New Brunswick's health networks asked the province to approve a critical state protocol so patients at 4 overcrowded hospitals can be bumped to the top of the nursing home wait list. The province granted that wish for 30 days.
We do have beds available across the province. So the folks that are in hospital now are going to be prioritized for those beds. Now, the next step is making sure that we don't get here again.
In the next month, Horizon Health hopes to get more patients out the door. How many is hard to predict.
It depends on beds becoming available in these long-term care homes. Often they become available when, unfortunately, a patient passes away.
Shelley Poirier's family understands the agonizing wait. Her dad had a heart attack in May 2023. It took 17 months to be moved from the hospital.
We watched his mental health decline too, right? He started to get, quite depressed. And he, after such a long wait, he started to believe it was never going to happen.
Eventually, he did get a spot at a nursing home where he's 100 and happy. But she's concerned for others.
It's a huge system and a huge problem that's systemic.
New Brunswick's seniors advocate compared the issue to a financial deficit, a problem he believes governments keep passing down.
On a growing number of patients who are in acute care when they really need long-term care, and it's hurting those patients and it's destabilizing the urgent care system and putting everybody at risk, and it is going to require some drastic action.
Moving some to the top of this wait list means others will temporarily be bumped down. Horizon Health has asked for the public's patience, noting this is a short-term measure. Sarah Plowman, CTV News, Fredericton.
Still ahead, how this centuries-old piano will help bring one of North America's famous monuments into the future. A beauty of a piano, a century old, has taken center stage at Montreal's Notre Dame Basilica. It's all part of fundraising efforts to pay for a remarkable restoration project. Here's CTV's Geneviève Beauchemin.
Notes as divine as the historic chapel of the Notre Dame Basilica in which they play rise from this century-old piano. A once famed but now closed Parisian manufacturer Gaveau fabricated the instrument. And experienced piano restorer Danielle Farah bought it from an estate in 2008.
You looked at it and you thought, this is valuable?
Well, first I said it's a wreck. But I could see it was a great design. It was a wonderful design. This is a 200-year soundboard.
Farah spent countless hours, well actually he stopped counting at 800, meticulously restoring the keys, the strings, the cracked wood. His aim was to respect the piano's history while bringing it into a new era.
This one will surprise you sometime because it's that impressionist period, It was so fantastic.
A sponsored donation put the piano into the hands of the Notre Dame Foundation. It's raising money to restore the Basilica, this masterpiece of Gothic revival architecture inspired by Notre Dame de Paris. But the Basilica was beginning to crumble. The work to fix the towers, the facades began 5 years ago and is expected to take another 5.
The expertise for that is pretty hard to find. There are fewer people who work as a mason.
Proceeds from a series of concerts in the chapel will go to that cause, including one that has on the program jazz music from cinema.
It's not church music.
No, it's not, and it's pretty new that we're able to feature jazz music here. Before, the other reverends were not into that modern music, I would say.
Modern music from an old piano, writing a new chapter in the history of this basilica. Geneviève Beauchemin, CTV News, Montreal.
Still ahead, a touching way to remember those we've lost. How a special phone in BC is encouraging never-ending connections to loved ones. Finally for us tonight, it's a phone that doesn't ring. It's not connected to a line. Instead, words are said to be carried on the wind. It's aimed at those who've lost a loved one, wanting to express their feelings. CTV's Adam Sawatsky met a BC man as he struggled to place the call.
David and his dog are walking along the water, not far from where he and his siblings once rented a boat to say goodbye to their parents at sea.
We poured out the ashes and a family of orcas started jumping. And the captain said, "Wow, you couldn't have scripted that any better."
And ever since, David's been hoping to see some other serendipitous sign.
You know, everybody says, "Oh, you know, I saw Mom here and here," and it's been dead silent for me.
And then he happened upon this, that someone set up along the path, an invitation, according to these instructions, to communicate with loved ones you've lost by phone.
What would I say, right? I'm not ready.
So David left the phone.
I walked down the path in tears.
But the phone didn't leave him.
I was moved. I was touched.
And the next day, he's returned.
I think it's a really special idea.
The sign says it's a wind phone, inspired by an unconnected phone booth in Japan to connect with the dead following a devastating earthquake.
It's the only number I ever had.
The number he started dialing as a kid and never stopped calling as a grown-up, on his old home phone, now displayed at his place after having to sell his parents.
Every Sunday, gotta call Mom. Nope. Every time there's a hockey game, gotta call Dad.
But today, this is not a call David can complete.
I can't do that today. I'm not ready for that.
Because although the notebook beside the phone is filled with messages from other folks feeling grateful for the opportunity to say what they wish they had, David is wanting to hear what he no longer can.
Just reassuring. Reassuring that it's all okay.
But how can we really hear, the wind phone seems to say, unless we listen?
All these years I've been waiting for a sign, and maybe it's just me. I gotta pick up the phone and call.
And when he's ready for that, David now knows he doesn't have to happen upon a wind phone. At any time, he can pick up that old home phone and really hear everything is okay. Adam Sawatsky, CTV News, Victoria.
Well, that's it for us tonight. For Heather and the rest of our CTV News crew, thanks so much for watching. Have a good night and a great week.